Hello students, so let's continue with factoring. Our next problem is x squared plus 10x plus 21. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write down my standard form right below my problem. So I'm going to write down ax squared plus bx plus c. So if you guys remember, this is going to help me to identify my a, my b, and my C. So my A, if you remember, anytime there's no coefficient for the x squared, we are going to put a 1. So A is 1, B is a 10, and C is a 21. So the next thing that I want to do is we are going to use the X method. Okay, so let's see if you remember how we do that one. That's the one where I need to draw an X. So let's do it. Okay, let's see if you remember how do I decide the number that goes on the upper section. So yes, you're right. It's going to be the answer for A times C, which of course will be a 21. On the opposite side, if you remember, anybody remembers? Yes, you're right. It's B, which of course is a 10. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to know who is going to go on the lower sections. Anybody remembers? It is an A. So my coefficient goes right on the spaces. So now in order for me to find the numbers that goes on the other two empty spaces, I will need to do the T, which is right on the side. So how do I do the T? Well, the first thing I need to know is I need to find the product for 21. And once I know what is the product for 21, I would use those factors to see if they can give me the sum for 10. So let's start with the first factors. So if you recall, I need to get a positive 21. So let's start with a basic one, which I always start with a 1. So 1 times 21, I do get a 21. But you also need to remember that a negative 1 times a negative 21 will still give you a positive 21. So what I need to do is I'm going to use those two numbers to see if they give me a sum of 10. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is 1 plus 21, and that gives me a 22. The next one will be negative 1 plus negative 21, and yes, I get a negative 22. So those are not the numbers that I'm looking for. So I'm going to continue. Now, you got to think, can you find a factor that when multiplied by 2 gives you a 21? You probably say no, right? No, it's not possible. So it would be a decimal. So we don't want decimals. So what about 3? So if we know times tables, right? If we know our factors, we're going to say, miss, 3 times 7 gives me 21. And I'm going to say, you're so right. But I hope that you remember that also a negative 3 times a negative 7 also gives you a positive 21. So let's work out to see who might give me a sum of 10. Start with the first one. So I'm going to say 3 plus 7 gives me a 10. And guess what? Bingo, that's the one that I'm looking for. I wanted 21, but I also wanted a 10. So I can see that my two factors are going to be a 3 and a 7. So my 3, I'm going to put it over here. It doesn't really matter which section, but you can put it right there. And my 7 goes right here. So just remember that my x goes on the lower section where the coefficient is. So this will be 1x and 1x. So I want you guys to remember that these two over here are actually my factors that I will be using in a minute. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to rewrite my factors now. So my first factor will be 1x plus 3. My second factor will be 1x plus 7. Now I can rewrite it because I know that the 1 is not needed in the front. So I'm going to say x plus 3 and x plus 7. So this will be my answer. Okay, so we say these are my factors for my polynomial. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Miss, what do you want that section on the left that it says product? So this is a very good way that you guys can actually use to prove that your factors are correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the factors that I got, which are x plus 3 and x plus 7. I'm going to multiply them, right? And I need to make sure that when I do it, I'm going to come back and double check that I do get my original problem. Okay, so for that, I'm going to use a box. So let's see if you guys remember what do I mean by a box. And let me draw the box for you guys. Okay, so do you have the box ready? So let's see. So in the length, I will go ahead and put one of the binomials, which will be x plus 3. And on the width, I will put the second one, which is x and the 7. So what I do next is I'm going to do the multiplication, right? If you guys remember, this is a previous lesson. So this is x times x gives me x squared. 3 times x gives me 3x. 7x gives me 7x. And 7 times 3 is 21. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite all my terms inside the boxes. So I'm going to rewrite it over here. And as I'm doing this, I want you to start looking for anything that you can combine, which we call it combining like terms, right? So, do you guys see any terms that we can combine? Yes, I'm hoping that you say 3x and 7x. And you will be right, because those two have the same variable. So my x squared cannot be combined with anything, so I'm going to bring it down. And 7 plus 3 gives me a 10x. And I'm going to bring down my 21. So if you notice, this problem right here is exactly the answer that I got is exactly the question that was given to me at the beginning, right? So this is the way that I can prove, this is the way that we can prove, this is the way that we can check if we got the right factors. Okay, so I hope that we got a better idea on how factoring. Thank you.